Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 13 of History's Greatest Idiots, the show where we look back through all of human history and give you lessons you can learn from those terrible mistakes that people have made. But who are we kidding? We're humans. We love mistakes and making them constantly and repeating ourselves time and time again. Like being late. Toasty, we're super sorry that we kept you waiting. I'm so sorry. We were discussing some, if it makes you feel better, we were discussing some really important stuff. Like super important, like life shit.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm sorry, but it was super important. I'm going to put it in the chat now. No, that's not the way you write that. Sorry. Yeah. So sorry about that, Toasty, and anyone who was waiting in the live chat, whatever it was. So, yeah. Welcome to the show. Joining me as ever is my amazing co-host Derek. Derek, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really good. I was hanging out, barbecuing all day yesterday.
Oh, nice. What do you barbecue? I've never asked you your barbecue like stuff. What do you do?
Well, it was just hamburgers and hot dogs and brats.
That's fine. That sounds great.
It's the Independence Day over here on Tuesday.
That's right. Yeah. Tuesday. Yeah, it was Canada Day. Like yesterday, was it? I don't know. They copy you guys, so it's close. Yeah.
I always wondered what it was like from perspective over there in UK when we're over here shooting off fireworks. Like, yeah, we won and shit long time ago once.
We genuinely we don't give a shit, to be honest. Like, actually, I've been to a July the 4th celebration, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's just nice, like people seem to be really happy for the most part, and they have great fun and great food, and there's like pageantry and stuff, and like. Here's the thing. I actually really like American pageantry, even though it's like quiet in your face. I quite like it. It's like really interesting, and I don't have to participate, so I can just sit back and enjoy the show of it all. And yeah, it's really good. But the food you guys have around 4th of July is what really interests me, to be honest.
What
barbecues and shit? Nice.
What's your favorite American type? Barbecue type outdoor food, like, do you have anything?
Yeah, ribs, I think. Ribs or brisket, I think. I don't know if that really counts.
Brisket, great. And you know what? That creepy pod every now and again that I do write a story for.
Yeah.
I think John Grills is the guy that runs that, and on their Instagram, he does a lot of cooking briskets and barbecue and stuff, and his stuff looks amazing. Has nothing to do with his podcast or anything, but
it's just a really good barbecue guy.
Scary good barbecue. There we go. That's how it relates.
Yeah, I think, but I mean, Toasty's asked here, do they have barbecue in the UK? I mean, we do have barbecues, very different, because we're not particularly great with sauces, because I feel like a lot of you guys, you've mastered the art of the condiment and flavors with your meat, whereas here it's because again, we're based in a world where a lot of people in this country for hundreds of years would have to make food with the basic of stuff. Like, they would be lucky if they had salt to season their food with, so they didn't have things like ketchup and all of these amazing sauces. They might have some herbs, but it wasn't massive. So yeah, American barbecues are really special, particularly ribs. I do enjoy good set of barbecue ribs, particularly because it doesn't affect my Crohn's at all. So nice. Yeah, that's super tasty. And a brisket, oh man, really good.
I just found out a younger family member of mine has Crohn's, so I might have to ask you some more questions about.
I can give you all the tips, man. I can get them on the right track again, because I was nearly dead a few years ago, and I just did a few things, and now I'm reasonably healthy. So
Definitely not dead.
I'm 75% a man again. So yeah. But yeah, so yeah, the 4th of July stuff's going to be really interesting. I was having this discussion with someone the other day about presenting style, and it's something that I've noticed because I watch a lot of reaction videos. They're kind of like my guilty pleasure, watching YouTube reaction videos, and the different presenting style between UK and US people are kind of based in our cultural history. Like the British way of presenting stuff, especially when you don't have media training, like a lot of reactors don't, is essentially like a end of the pier style. Oh yes, we'll talk like this, and it's all very like animated, but it's like a forced kind of charisma and presentation. Whereas the American style of presenting is like a supernatural charisma. Like you guys don't force anything; it's just from the way you are, and that's really interesting. Sorry, I'm just
Maybe. I don't know, because I think a lot of the stuff for like US radio and like that,
oh yeah,
there used to be like the radio, they call it like the radio puke. Like, oh yeah,
yeah.
that sort of shit. But God, they hammered it into me when I was, getting ready to do radio. Dude, just sound natural, but be excited like you care.
Yeah, exactly. It's like yourself with the volume turned up a little bit, and that was also my favorite part of my time doing radio. Is like, hey, at some point your family members are going to start dying, and you can't let that slip into your on-air personality. And sure enough, it happened. And I was like, hey everyone, really great to see you. Hope you're enjoying that music from Richard Marx there. And next coming up is the B-52s. Oh, my fucking grandmother's just.
Oh man.
So yeah. It was a bit difficult. I'm 100% certain that American food only exists because we just cooked whatever we could find with no regard of making it actually look any appetizing. I don't know, man. Like your food, Toasty, your food looks like mostly appetizing. I think the thing that bothers me is mostly the breakfast, because I'm like, I either want sweet or savory. I don't necessarily want both. So when you're chucking pancakes and bacon and syrup on there, I'm like, oh my god, this is going to make me shit through the eye of a needle. So
yikes. See, that's my favorite. You got to cover your bacon in syrup. Your bacon in syrup.
I have a very clear distinction of like, no, it's either sweet or savory, and never the twain shall meet. Do not do that. So yeah, anyway, sorry, that's just my thing about food. So another random thing, we were talking before the show about stuff, and I was saying, oh, the Colleen Bollinger stuff. You won't have caught up on this. We used to do the very first episode we did a segment of like Idiot of the Week. And we've never done it since, and there have been so many idiots that we could have done in the interim, like every week. I mean, Elon Musk could have been in like 5 times at this point, and Kanye West about 4.
Yeah,
but
dude, every other week he's doing something stupid. Now he's like, I'm gonna charge you to read more than 5 tweets. Like, what?
So stupid.
Thanks, dude.
Why are you trying to kill your own platform? You paid $40 billion for it. What is wrong with you? But no, the Colleen Bollinger thing. So unless you a lot of you may not be familiar with this, this is going to date the episode immediately. Colleen Bollinger is a YouTuber who kind of broke out into the mainstream. She did a character that appealed to kids, but was like PG-13, called Miranda Sings, where she like caked her lips in like loads of lipstick. And really annoying, and like it was a whole thing. Anyway, she found like a lot of success, and she started doing like behind the scenes vlogging. She appeared on that Jerry Seinfeld, like comedians in cars get coffee thing. She was on an episode of that. That's how big she got. So yeah. Anyway, a bunch of stuff came out about her past and how she used to talk to her underage fans, and like it's not quite catching a case, but it's like the language is close, and people were pressuring her about this for a while. And YouTubers usually come out and they make a statement in a video or an apology video or something like that. That's kind of the done thing. She decided to do that, only her explanation video was a 10-minute ukulele song of her singing about the situation without addressing anything, calling it rumors and gossip and toxic gossip. And it's the most delusional thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, more than Randy Quaid.
I mean, like Randy Quaid had an excuse because he was mentally ill. Colleen Bollinger is just completely detached from reality at this point. That's how bad it is. Like, she even says at the start of the song, "My people told me not to address this, but they didn't tell me I couldn't sing it." And I'm like, what the fuck? They shouldn't have to tell you that. That's like a given. You don't sing about topics like that. She even says at one point, because Anthony Fantana, who's a YouTube reviewer of music of note, he's been doing it for like 10 years. He's reviewed like pretty much every kind of music you can find. Got a huge following. Someone was like, "You've got to review this. It's a song." And he's like, "Oh, fucking hell, do I?" Because like normally he's quite restrained and stuff, no matter how controversial or weird the song is. And there's a part where she says, "The only thing I've groomed are my 2 Persian cats. I'm not a groomer." And he pauses it and just goes, and then it cuts to him 30 seconds later going, "Ah!" just screaming because he's so freaked out by it. It's the weirdest thing. I encourage you to go and find this moment in human history where Colleen Bollinger decided to respond to these really serious allegations with a ukulele song. And another YouTuber was like, "We should never have let white people get hold of ukuleles. Like, it should have ended at Tiny Tim, and that should have been it."
He should have not had one either, to be fair.
It's true.
That's the creepiest shit ever.
That was the creepiest shit ever. And also one of the commenters was like, "This is the most millennial fucking thing I've ever seen in my life." I'm like, yeah, basically, yes. So it was that one TikTok star who apologized for assaulting her boyfriend when he was unconscious with an interpretive dance video. I haven't heard of this.
That's a way to apologize. I'm going to apologize through interpretive dance.
Yeah, through the medium of human movement. "I'm sorry I slapped you." And then he's just like flailing limbs everywhere. Oh my God.
She's like,
that's so dark. That's so dark. So yeah, we don't do Idiots of the Week anymore, but man, that's like a fucking solid winner right there. But
maybe that'll start showing up on Instagram.
I mean, yeah, to be honest, I might even caption this conversation we've had and put that on Instagram, because I tell you what, every YouTuber on the planet is covering this situation at the moment, and it's a good way of getting views. I swear to God. So
hashtag that.
Hashtag Colleen Bollinger destroys her own career. So Derek, tell us about your... Oh, wait, before we get going, I nearly did it again. I nearly fucking did it.
I was trying to hint at you. I didn't want to, you know.
You can just stop me in my tracks at this point. Like I basically lose the thread. So yes, if you want to follow us on social media, please go to @GreatestIdiots on Twitter, where we're currently streaming this live, and also at History's Greatest Idiots on Instagram. If you would like to sling us some cash and get a little bunch of like behind the scenes scripts and a shout out on the podcast and like a special treat for signing up, go to patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen if you're watching live or on YouTube after the fact. And I also want to say a massive thank you to our first and so far only Patreon, Jesse. Jesse, you are a fucking star. Thank you so much, and we really, really appreciate you helping us out. I posted another script the other day, which was, I can't remember the one, but it was from episode 2, so I hope you enjoyed that. So, yeah, you get to read our scripts if you want, and including all of my inserted jokes. So, yeah.
Be like
Jesse. We love Jesse. And if you join Patreon, you get this sort of call out in front of like 1,000 followers at this point. So, yeah, please give us a follow on Patreon and give us some money. We want to do this full time.
I'm sure somehow too we'll virtually internet hang out with you too, because I need friends. Sure. I don't have any friends.
No, we don't. We're men in our 40s. We don't really have friends anymore, to be honest. So yes, Derek, please tell us about your idiot this week, if you would.
Okay, so I have one it's for fans of the Old West, and it's not a traveling corpse one this time.
Excellent. That's a good start.
Yeah. This one's just, he makes corpses as he travels. Here we go. So we glamorize, whatever.
Glamorize, yeah.
We love our outlaws here in the U.S. It's like we root for them, from like Billy the Kid to Jesse James to Al Capone. We love them, and then some of them we don't. Like this guy, he was super mean, deadly, and he loved that he was an asshole. He's considered to be one of the deadliest gunfighters in the Old West, and one of the very select few to have been hanged more than once.
Oh my God. He's the Terminator. Holy shit.
He's born William Preston Longley on October 6th, 1851 in Mill Creek, Texas. He was the sixth of 10 children of Campbell and Sarah Longley. What perfect old-timey names, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
exactly.
then I also noticed that his name is William, as well as 90% of the other people in this story. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, very unimaginative naming around about that time, man.
So he's born to Campbell and Sarah Longley. And when he's around 2 years old, the family moves to Old Evergreen, Texas, which is currently present day Lincoln, Texas, just like 50 miles east of Austin, in case anybody from Texas is listening and is like, hey, I know William Preston Longley. I've been to his marker, which I'll tell you about later too. So he was growing up on a farm, and while he was on that farm, he's learning his way around firearms. He spends a large part of his childhood learning how to shoot, which was a useful skill to have on a farm and in the Old West.
Yeah, particularly in that part of the world with all sorts of shit living around there.
And right around the same time, when he's getting into his late teens, the Civil War is in full swing. Before he even becomes a teenager, he proves that he's one of the fastest, deadliest gunfighters in Texas. And after the war, Reconstruction starts having an impact. The Texas governor, E.J. Davis, creates a state police force made up mostly of freed slaves, which didn't go over well with the Confederate Southerners, who were still pissed that they lost the war, William Longley included. In fact, many consider this time in Texas history as its most dangerous during this Reconstruction and rebuilding and extra hate moment.
Yeah, you've also got carpetbaggers coming in and like con artists all over the place after the Civil War. So that's a super dangerous thing as well. So yeah, I can totally see that.
It was the age of outlaws too, like Jim Miller and John Wesley Hardin and Sam Bass. There's just tons. If I wanted to, I could list them like the entire rest of the episode, but all of them really had short-lived violent lives, and Wild Bill Longley is no exception to that. It's around this time, he's right around 16. It's the end of the Civil War. They've got these new freed slaves that are serving as state police. Carpetbaggers are running amok. Will Longley drops out of school and takes to a wild life of drinking and running in the company of other lawless outlaws. John Wayne.
John Wayne. Probably not John Wayne.
No. Different kind of time and cowboy.
Yes.
He's a man's man, and this guy's an asshole's man.
That's a thing for sure.
So he's running around with these other criminals, drinking, raising hell, and the way he tells the story of his life, he wasn't a bad guy. He claims that he's never picked a fight, and in his opinion, it was, quote, people kept getting in my way and needed killing.
Yeah, that sounds like you pick fights. Like when people say, "Oh, it's just like I haven't it's not my fault," or I keep having these car accidents. I drive places fast, and people's cars just happen to be there when I'm driving fast in the reckless way I do.
Right, and the trees that just jump out at me when I'm texting.
Yeah, exactly.
So people keep getting in his way. They need killing, and he obliges them. And whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy, he left a pretty big wake of bodies all across Texas. Right. And his first murder happened like this, according to him. In December of 1866, him and his father were in Evergreen, and there was this altercation between a black policeman who they said was drinking. Again, that's unconfirmed, and it may have only been mentioned by the Longleys to justify the murder.
Right.
But this black policeman comes riding down the street drunk, waving his gun and cursing at local townspeople before he stops before Longley and Campbell, his dad, like policemen do. Sure. I mean, I guess they do these days.
They do now, for sure, yeah.
So they stop at him and his dad and insult Campbell right in front of his son.
Okay.
That's when Will Longley steps forward and tells the men, "You need to lower your gun." which works about the way you figure it would. The man aims at Will,
Right.
who then shot him dead off his horse.
Jesus. Okay.
Right after that, he takes off terrorizing the land with some other young men,
Mm-hmm.
including, I believe it's his cousin. But they run across some newly freed slaves, these three men.
Okay.
They walk them down into a wash
Ugh.
and kill and rob them in Lexington, Texas, around 1868.
Yeah. Sounded like he's got a bit of a problem with African American people at this point.
He's super racist.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of the 32 or so men he had claims to have killed were African American. And some of them were his childhood friends, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
By this time, when that murder occurred, he was earning a name for himself as a fast draw, and people were starting to use him to make a name for themselves. He gets called out by these gunmen, and they lost, like all of them. Called him out and fought, lost, because he may have lived a short, violent life, but he stacked up 32 bodies.
Yeah,
allegedly.
that's a lot. It's really interesting when we talk about, like, because this is essentially mass murder at this point, right? I don't know if I think it goes beyond serial killing, because like where do you draw the line between like John Wayne Gacy or like Ted Bundy and like these guys from the Old West? Because they're essentially the same. I guess they're not getting sexual or like pleasure out of the deaths. I mean, maybe they are. We don't know, but they stack up a body count, but we don't see them as serial killers,
right? Which is kind of weird.
Yeah, and really weird.
Hardin, John Wesley Hardin, is one of those ones that I think may have been like a serial killer type rather than just a wild, drunken, gambling outlaw.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I think it's this sort of lawlessness and drunkenness that led to our prohibition too. People were getting drunk on whiskey and calling people out in the street.
Yeah, and just like having fights and also wasting all of their money down at the saloon because you could cash your check there and you could put your post in and other stuff. And the saloon became a very useful thing for people to get rid of all of their earnings before they got home to their hungry wife and kids. So yeah, that's one of the reasons prohibition came around as well.
Got home to the hungry wife and kids so you could beat the wife and the children.
Exactly. I guess it's because serial killer is a more modern term that wasn't around at the time. Yeah, that's true. I think it's also modern conceptions of like there's something romantic about the outlaw and the Wild West gunman and stuff because it's been woven into Americana, whereas serial killers, let's not talk about that being part of America. Let's cowboys and Indians. Yeah, that's totally fun. John Wayne.
Yeah. It's kind of really weird when you think about it.
It is. Sorry to interrupt, but please carry on. He's a farmer from Texas in the 1860s. Of course, he's racist. Yeah,
could be a thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, he's earning a reputation as a fast draw. People are calling him out. He's drifting around Texas and gambling, and he meets a gambler named Phil Cole. Around that time, he was also supposedly involved with an outlaw gang led by Cullen M. Baker in Arkansas. But by some accounts, he was only traveling with a member of that gang and kind of got accused by association.
Okay.
That member of that gang that he was traveling with and himself were captured by a group of vigilantes in their travels. And here comes hanging number one of three.
Of three? Fuck.
Sort of.
Well, yeah, I guess the third one did the job, didn't it? So,
yes. The third one was really the second one, but just part two.
Oh, yeah,
we'll get there.
Happen. Yeah.
So the group lynched them as horse thieves, and they hung the men from trees. Right. But as the mob was riding off, one of the vigilantes in the mob turned around and started firing shots back at the pair that were hanging from the tree.
Okay.
One of the bullets hit Longley in the face, broke his tooth out, and the other one frayed the rope above him, leading to his body weight snapping it and saving his life.
Wow, that's incredibly fortunate.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Just prolonging the inevitable at this point. How
Ooh,
about we hang him by his neck this time instead of his penis?
what is that from?
Is that Blazing Saddles? I feel like that's a Blazing Saddles joke. It might be. I don't know.
My boss was just talking about that movie, and I haven't seen it forever. And he's like, "What
Yeah.
is up with all the trigger warnings and stuff on these before they start?" And I am
Oh,
like,
they've
"I don't
got
know what
those
the hell
now?
you're talking about."
I have no idea. I mean, they do use the N word, so yeah, there's probably that. But also, like, a horse gets punched, so I guess there's a trigger warning for that because animal cruelty, even though it's not a real punch.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
yeah. Well, anyway, carry on. He's been hanged, and it's not worked out well for the hangers.
Yeah, the rope breaks, saves his life. In February of 1870, Longley and his brother-in-law, John W. Wilson, kill a black man named Bryce in Bastrop County, Texas. They also were accused of killing a black woman at that around the same time.
Definitely
And
racists.
totally.
Yeah.
Like early pre-KKK people.
Yeah, for sure.
But by March of 1870, the military authorities were offering $1,000 reward for William Longley and John Wilson, not Luke Wilson or Owen Wilson or any of the good Wilsons.
Yeah.
This is an asshole Wilson.
Wow. Well wanted.
So Longley claimed that his brother-in-law was killed by outlaws in 1870 in Brazos County, Texas, while they were on the run. But there is evidence that indicates that he was actually killed in 1874 by some other outlaw activity in Falls County, Texas, in case anybody cared. I don't know why I added that. You're welcome. By May 1870, he joined up with a gold hunting party in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay.
And the gold mining party was traveling into the Black Hills through South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
But a treaty with the Sioux prohibited mining on the territory.
Right. Okay.
And the party got disbanded when they were intercepted by the U.S. cavalry. And you'd think at this time, shit, there's a bounty on him. The Cavs got him. No, somehow it prompted William Longley to enlist on June 22nd, 1870, for a 5-year commitment in the Army, serving in Company B of the U.S. Cavalry U.S. Second Cavalry.
Wow. And they just like let him in?
That's what I was thinking. Like, wait, he's got a warrant and he gets to just sign up?
And he's murdering people left, right, and center. I mean, I guess, the cavalry, it's kind of their bag at certain points in history, but Jesus.
It's the Wild West. Like,
for
real.
Yeah.
They just kind of did whatever they wanted, apparently.
Pretty much. Apparently.
In a totally predictable turn of events, though, Will Longley deserted after about 2 weeks because he couldn't get with the strict lifestyle. He was like, fuck this, I'm out. They caught him.
AWOL. Yeah.
They court-martialed him. He got sentenced to 2 years of hard labor, strapped to a ball and chain at Camp Stambaugh, where he was held for 4 months before they released him and sent him back to his unit.
Right.
Because his marksmanship skills were on point. He was a sharpshooter. He was a fast draw. He gets assigned back to his unit and is working on regular hunting parties.
Okay.
When he deserts again in May or June of 1872, and he just dips the hell off.
Yeah, why did they think that would work? Like, if you're going to bring someone back for deserting, maybe bring them back for their speciality and maybe tailor their lifestyle to something that's going to keep them around a little bit longer. Like, if this fucker doesn't want to get up at 4 a.m., don't wake him up until 7 or something, or if he doesn't like to wear... Like, if he doesn't want to march, that's fine. Just let him do his thing and use him as a sharpshooter and maybe keep him out of fucking trouble for a while,
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
He dipped. He deserted twice, hung once by this point. And from this point on, it's a little bit speculative until around February of 1873. He claims that he lived and rode with Chief Washakie and the Shoshone Indians.
Right.
But it's questionable. There's no real modern day contemporary evidence or anything to prove that it happened. While he was doing this, he claims that he killed a man named Charlie Stewart. There's no record that man ever existed, but then he started working as a cowboy in Comanche County, where he claims to have killed another black man in a gunfight at the Santa Ana Mountains in Coleman County.
Man.
This one is also unconfirmed, but probably maybe could be true.
I mean, given his track record, yeah, that sounds about right.
In July of 1873, he's arrested in Kerr County by Sheriff J.J. Finney and is taken to Austin so the sheriff can collect the reward that's out on him.
Wow.
Maybe possibly bumped up for desertion as well at this point.
I would imagine.
But after
so,
after several days waiting for it, no money comes in. He just let his ass go because he's like, well, fuck it, I'm not going to get paid.
Yeah, I would too.
Off you go.
Yeah.
It's also rumored, though, that it was a Longley family relative that came and paid him off to let him go. Right, so that he uses that opportunity to disappear into the open range for the rest of time, or until 1874, when him and his brother James head out to their Uncle Caleb's home in Lee County, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
His uncle's all upset because his son his Uncle Caleb's son, had been killed, and they believed that this man Wilson Anderson was responsible. So Caleb is talking to Will Longley and saying, listen, this dude killed my son. You got to go avenge me. He was your cousin or nephew or
whatever.
Anyway, so on March 31st, 1875, Will Longley comes across Wilson Anderson while he's plowing a field, and he guns him down with a shotgun.
Holy shit.
And then he takes off with his brother into Indian territory to hide out for a little while.
Jesus.
His brother came back and turned himself in, and he was acquitted of the murder.
Wow.
But Longley stayed on the run, was a wanted man, and law enforcement actually started to get some pressure because he killed a normal, regular farmer guy in town.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Smashed my microphone there. Sorry.
So he's moving around from place to place. He starts using multiple aliases to avoid capture. He's working on a cotton farm for a little while, but he gets forced on the run again in November of 1875 after he murders his hunting buddy, George Thomas, after they got into a fist fight.
Oh, okay.
He's got a bit of a temper on him.
Yeah, sounds like it.
While he's on the run from that murder...
Sorry, I just have to put this from Toasterzoid. He killed a white man. He's gone too far.
It turned up the heat on him.
That's it. Like, they're getting him now. Like, he's stepped over a line that you can never go back from. Murdered a bunch of people, but he's killed a white man now. So
they're after him.
Yeah.
While he's on the run for killing all of these people and now this other one in Uvalde County, he comes across another man that he kills. This is January 1867. This time, he's attempting to ambush fellow outlaw William Lou Schroyer.
Okay.
But Schroyer shot Longley's horse out from underneath him, catching him in the ambush. Then a gunfight breaks out. And it's actually the only known instance right there where one of Longley's victims shot back.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yep.
As in, he was either too quick, or presumably he just shot them in the fucking back with a shotgun like this poor bloody farmer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was quick on a lot of them, and he was a sucker shooter.
Yeah.
After he shoots down Schroyer and survives uninjured somehow after falling off a horse and everything else, he takes off out east where he finds work as a sharpshooter for a preacher, William R. Lay. Another William. It's the 100th William in the story. You win a prize.
So a preacher needs a sharpshooter now. Why does a preacher need a sharpshooter?
As I was, sharecropper.
Oh, right.
Yeah, okay. That makes more sense. So this preacher's got this farm and he needs somebody to work it for him. That makes way more sense than the sharpshooter thing.
Yeah.
I'm just reading what I want to read, even if it's not
that's fine.
fair.
That would have been cool. Righteous justice from afar sort of thing. Like, no, sharecropper.
That'd have been way better. Damn it. So he gets into a dispute with this local man over hitting on a woman. That local man is Reverend Lay's nephew, and it doesn't sit well with the Reverend, so he tries to run Longley off.
Yeah. That
doesn't go well for him because William Longley is an asshole, and on June 13th, he shot and killed him while he was milking a cow.
I'm sorry, I know that's not funny, but this guy is like, it's either fairish fights, or he's like waiting for them to do some sort of manual labor. Like, they were churning butter, and he shot them through the fucking head, or like pressing clothes through a fucking grinder or something. And like, yeah, no, he shot them in the back.
He's
Jesus.
an opportunistic killer.
Yeah. Milking a cow.
After he kills the Reverend, the heat really gets turned on, and he takes off out of the state this time. It might be one of the first ventures out of the state for a long time.
Yeah.
And he ends up in Louisiana, where he's hiding out until things cool off. All along the way, he notices a couple of his buddies are in jail in Grayson County, Texas, so he breaks them out, because that's what you do while you're on the run.
Of course. Yeah, let's just pile more shit on there. Why not? You know, the reward's got to be $1 million at this point. Did this preacher have one of those Bibles with a hidden gun compartment in it? That would be so fucking cool.
The coolest preacher I've ever known is the preacher from Preacher, that TV show, which was awesome. And that was my favorite vampire ever, too.
It was so good. The comics are amazing. The Preacher comics, the covers for those fucking things are so beautiful. They're just incredible. So is it Garth Ennis? I can't remember who wrote Preacher things. It's just amazing. Go and read them. Watch the TV series. It's fucking brilliant. That, and I would say, what's his name? That old-timey actor. He was like a bit of a psychopath on screen. Gary
Oldman?
No, way before that. He played a preacher. Anyway, it's fine. Like this old-timey actor played like a scary preacher and shit. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of. But yeah, preachers are either hypocrites or terrifying generally in the media.
In this case, they're sharecroppers shot while milking a cow.
Yeah.
So he's running. He's in Louisiana. He breaks his buddies out of jail in Grayson County, Texas. And they break out by disarming this deputy, Matt Shelton, while he's trying to arrest him. At that point, the law had enough of the shit, and they were after him. June 6th, 1877, Will Longley is surrounded and finally arrested without incident in my favorite place to say, Nacogdoches County. Sheriff Milt Mast and 2 deputies surround him, move him into DeSoto Parish, Louisiana, where he had been living under the alias of Bill Jackson, and then ship his ass back to Lee County, Texas, to stand trial for murder.
Yeah.
Of who?
Shitload of murder.
Nope, just Will Anderson.
Okay.
Just the white guy.
Just the one white guy.
On September 5th, 1877, the jurors of Lee County deliberated for an hour and a half and returned a sentence of death for William Longley. Yeah. Death by hanging.
Yep, there you go.
It's going to work this time.
Maybe.
While he's awaiting execution, he starts writing the papers, and the governor and the papers and the dime store people telling the adventures of his life and adventures and craziness. Claims to have killed 32 men. Well, it may be true. It's not verified. We know he killed at least 4.
Well, yeah. I would say it's probably, like you said, there was a lot there that he claimed that you couldn't prove. But, I mean, I would say it's double figures at least at this point.
I think probably.
Yeah.
And so he's writing those stories. He writes the governor asking for clemency, and on the grounds of the old what about them defense. You know, certain people use that these days. He says in this letter, well, John Wesley Hardin, he killed 40 men, and he only got 25 years. Why am I getting sent to the hangman? That's not fair.
Wow. Okay. I don't think that's going to work, buddy. I think you're going to have to come up with a better argument than, well, I only killed this many people, so really I should get less than that guy instead of, being hanged from a fucking tree or whatever you decide to use. That's crazy.
They're building gallows.
Yeah.
They're going to have to change where they're building them. Because in Lee County, when he got sentenced, the victims of all of his, or the survivors of all of his victims, got pissed off and formed a mob and went to go get him. So they had to transfer him to Galveston, Texas, to avoid getting lynched before he got hung. Because you don't want somebody to hang him before you get to hang him. That's not fair either.
Oh.
Plus, he was appealing his conviction, and it didn't work.
No, I'm not surprised.
October 8th, 1878, William Longley was taken before a crowd of 1,000 in Giddings, Texas,
Wow.
where he was led to the hangman's noose by Lee County Sheriff James Madison Brown.
James
One
Brown.
little anecdote on it was that Longley made a joke with them, with the jailers, telling them that they need to repair that board on that step, because he'd hate to break his neck on his way up.
That's a good joke. I was thinking it'd be something like he'd have an addendum to it, like, oh, I fixed that step, I don't want to hurt myself on the way up. Ho ho ho! By the way, I killed a load of African American people. That's just like a dark ending to it. Like, might as well get it out there right now. I killed so many African American people. Oh my god! And they're like, okay, yeah, you're definitely hanging. Jesus.
He didn't do it as a joke, but in front of this crowd of 4,000 people, as his last words, he proclaims that he only killed 8 men. And right before Sheriff Brown pulled the lever, dropping his ass through the trapdoor to his death, he says, quote, "I deserve this fate. It's a debt I've owed for a wild and reckless life. So long, everybody." Okay. And then he nodded and was dropped through the door to his death, almost. As fate would have it, the hangman was an FNG. And for those of you that don't know what that is, he was a fucking new guy, and he cut Longley too much rope. So when he fell through, he landed feet first beneath the gallows and just kind of stood there for a minute while everybody was like, what the fuck?
Mulligan, do you want to try that again?
Well, here's where I thought that if they tried to execute you and failed, you got to go free, man. They followed through with it. That's not how it works.
No, apparently.
I think I saw that in an old Western once or something.
I feel like that's the case. Yeah. Like
it wasn't. The sheriff,
double jeopardy thing.
Several of his guards rushed down below the gallows, and they just kind of pick him up so that his feet can't touch the ground, but he's still hanging.
Oh my God.
they hold him there for 11.5 minutes until he eventually succumbs and loses his life on October 11th, 1878.
That's the stupidest death we've had in a very long time. I thought you were going to say something like they ran under there and they just beat him to death. It's like, oh, this is taking too long. Or just something ridiculous like that.
I think it would have been less harsh, though.
Yeah.
Like, just, we're going to hold you while you hang for 11 minutes.
Yeah. They're just like, because they've got to be right close to him, right? So he'd have been like, oh, so what are you doing this weekend? Like, there's someone like right there. They're all holding him. That's so weird. Oh my God.
So there's this historical marker that identifies his grave site, and it summarizes his life pretty well, I guess. And I'm going to read it to you here. It's, quote, "Texas outlaw Bill Longley was from a respectable family, but his hot temper and his fondness for liquor and unsettling conditions during Reconstruction led him to become one of the most daring gunslingers of his day. He's said to have killed 32 persons before his capture in 1877. Before Longley died, he repented and urged others to avoid his example. His grave was once outside cemetery bounds." I don't know why that last bit was on there, but whatever.
Yeah. We kind of fucked up with the grave thing as well. Sorry, bye.
I forgot to mention, right before he was executed, he was baptized a Catholic and repented and everything was okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something in his favor, I guess. But that might also be him going, hey, I learned this as a kid, that if you recant all your sins, you get to go to heaven. So it feels like a bit of a cheat way out, kind of.
If that's the way it works, I'm gonna be pissed, because like nothing I did was that bad. And if there's like Hitler in there because he said sorry beforehand, I'm gonna be so mad.
He's got the pill in his hand. I'm so sorry. And then welcome in. No, I don't think that's how it works. According to South Park, it's only Mormons that get into heaven. So everyone gets up there and
they got their own planet.
No. Is it Mormons? I'm sure it's Mormons that only get into heaven in South Park. They get a bunch of people get up there and like, hey, I lived a good life. Why can't I come in? He's like, no, you chose the wrong thing. The correct answer was Mormons.
Damn it. I always lose these trivia games.
Exactly. And then they get sent down to hell because they didn't choose Mormonism. Yeah, wow.
Well, I want to recap a little bit more of this here.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
You know how Billy the Kid died and Jesse James died? Yeah. And there was the whole rumor that no, they didn't.
All right.
This guy too.
I don't know, man. I feel like this is
Seems right. It was a few years after his execution that his father Campbell came forward in a press release and said that he hadn't been executed, but it was faked.
Faked.
And, yeah.
Okay.
They faked his execution and faked his burial and all that.
All right. What's he doing now? Back in groceries and quick save?
I don't know. He just disappeared, but it didn't really work out, and nobody took it too seriously until 2000, when they figure out exactly where this William Longley is laid to rest. And by June, they get the court orders to exhume his body. June 2001, they pull it up, test his bones and his DNA, and it's Bill Longley. His dad's full of shit.
His dad setting wonderful examples there.
He wants him to be like Jesse James, I think. It was
trying to enhance his reputation, maybe trying to make a bit of money off that.
And now I want to clear up some stuff that might get me attacked in the comments, which seems to be a thing for everybody I cover, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and I tell you that right now.
Yeah.
It's usually cult leaders, though, and not so much outlaws.
Yeah, we're usually okay with anyone other than cult leaders. Also, Toasty here, they said it was fake to save the guy working the gallows at the all the embarrassment. That's totally it. That's absolutely what they're doing.
Most likely scenario right there.
Yeah.
Now, this part is straight from Wikipedia, and it clears up anything that I may have gotten wrong, I hope.
You hope.
So there's numerous myths and legends about Longley that can't be verified by any contemporary sources. And many of the legends trace back to tall tales that he told himself while he was in jail in Giddy. Like I said, he was writing those letters. Those stories got out. Most of them are probably false, and there's no evidence outside of the actual 8 that he confessed to, really.
Right. Okay.
And he was motivated partly trying to rival John Wesley Hardin's reputation as a cold-blooded killer.
Okay. Yeah.
The most clearly false story that has evidence to show so was the story of him being captured and lynched in 1869 alongside of one of Cullen Baker's outlaw gang.
Okay.
He probably never was shot at and dropped. There's nothing to prove it. He was lynched and got away according to the evidence that's found on it.
Okay.
He was never hung, though, so he's only hung the 1.5 times at the end there.
Yeah, exactly. Or potentially beaten to death, or living happily in like Texas.
Maybe
he's Joe Arpaio. He's old enough. Fucking hell.
But that's William Longley, Wild Bill. Not that one, though.
No, the other Wild Bill. There's a few Wild Bills because everyone's called William, apparently.
Exactly.
William Longley. So it's going to be a difficult one to score this, because first of all, let's say he didn't kill as many African American people as he suggested he did. The fact that he's boasting about it makes him a massive fucking arsehole, so extra points for that. But also, like, it's so hard to know because, I mean, yeah, look, he killed people. He's getting a high score. But a lot of the stuff in the West, particularly stuff like this, does seem to be born out of embellishment and lies.
Clout chasing.
Oh, wow. Evening from Sweden. Verbrilli. Hello. Thank you. Welcome.
Sweden's awesome.
Sweden's awesome. We love Sweden. So yeah. I don't know with this guy. I feel like, I mean, for sure he's an arsehole, and let's say he killed 8 people. I mean, immediately there he's getting like mid-80s. So yeah. The racial aspect to his murders, and the fact that he's like, I'm going to shoot this guy while he's milking a cow. I'm going to shoot this guy while he's like getting some crops together. I'm going to kill a preacher or whatever it is. Like, that's extra points right there. I think I'm going to go 89 with this guy. Yeah, because he's just a dick. There's like, and he's doing stuff that, like, look, he's not even a smart criminal, because like he's not really hiding out well. He's still doing random shit while he's on the run. And it's not smart to do that. Like, if you've committed massive amounts of crime, probably the last thing you should be doing is committing more crime on top of it while you're running.
Dude, yeah. It's like posting on Facebook, well, yeah, I'm here breaking my homies out of prison.
It's so stupid. It really is. But also, I may lower his score to 88, partially because it kind of highlights the absolute abject incompetence of some of the massive institutions in the Old West around this time. Like, people just couldn't catch this fucking guy. And he is no master criminal, but also, like, he's breaking people out of prison. He's like deserting from the army twice. He's like not getting hanged properly. This is like basic shit, people. Get your lives together, you know? Otherwise, someone else will take your damn job. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of incompetence here that could probably have, had people been doing their jobs properly, he wouldn't have killed as many people or broken people out of prison or whatever. So
Right.
yeah, really interesting story though. I mean, we will never not be fascinated with like the West, the Wild West as a culture. You know, the
Because it was
world.
insane.
It's so insane, and it's been so romanticized that there's always going to be something appealing to it. But I don't think you'll ever get the same situation with like Helmand province or something like that, or like downtown Fallujah, where like, oh, those were crazy times.
A
No, I
whole
don't think that's
different level of scary, I think.
yeah, Beirut in the 80s. No, that's not, no. That's not going to be quite as romanticized, I think. So yeah, I think 88 for Wild William. I'm going to go with William because everyone's Wild Bill. So Wild William gets an 88 for being just a horrible prick and murderer. And yeah, he would have gotten higher had people around him not been so incompetent when it came to that.
Right
So
on. I'll take it.
it's a good score, man. It's a good person as well. So from one racist scumbag to another probably anti-Semitic scumbag, and we'll get into that because there's like a little conjecture around it, and it's mostly like maybe he is an anti-Semitic, maybe he really believes this shit, and he's just crazy. Let's talk
There's
about.
always that.
There is always that option. Let's talk about David Icke. Anti-Semitic scumbag or just local idiot? You decide. David Vaughan Icke, the middle son of three boys born 7 years apart. Icke was born in Leicester General Hospital to Berwick Vaughan Icke and Barbara J. Cook, who were married in Leicester in 1951. Berwick Icke served in the Royal Air Force as a medical orderly during the World War II, and after the war became a clerk in the Gents Clock Factory. I'm really glad I said that properly because that could have been a very different factory then. The family lived in a terraced house on Lead Street, in the centre of Leicester, an area that was demolished in the mid-1950s as part of the city's slum clearance. So that gives you an idea of like how difficult his upbringing would have been. Like, this is post-war Leicester. Yeah, really rough. Like, hanging the remnants of the Victorian slums that somehow escaped the bombings by the Luftwaffe were still around. So they were like, man, this is so bad, we have to demolish this.
That's how bad it was. The Germans skipped bombing it. It sucked so bad. They're like, fuck it.
Their lives are bad enough already. Let's not make it any worse. When David Icke was 3, around 1955, they moved to the Goodwood estate, one of the council estates the post-war Labour government built to say we were skint, he wrote in 1993, is like saying it is a little chilly at the North Pole. Such a way with words.
What is skint?
Skint, broke. Basically, it's a different way of saying broke. He recalls having to. Oh, this is so sad. He recalls having to hide under a window or a chair when the councilmen came by for the rent. So in council accommodation, you get a house. I'm living in an ex-council house right now that was bought by the previous owner because Margaret Thatcher made it legal for you to buy your council house for like a reduced rate. But unfortunately, she didn't build anything new. So people who needed cheap housing stopped getting it.
Didn't have it. Yeah.
Didn't have it anymore. So yeah, basically council houses in the UK, it's kind of like it's social housing in America, essentially. So you pay a very nominal fee for, let's say you live in a 2-3 bedroom apartment in a high rise or something like that. You might pay like £250-300 a month for that apartment. It's really not much, and you don't have to pay council tax because that's taken care of, I think, anyway. And your amenities are super cheap as well. So yeah, so if you are on like minimum wage or like a really low wage, you can get housing in the UK. It's just there's not enough of it because we haven't built new stock for affordable housing. And whenever people throw up apartments, they're always luxury apartments, aren't they, that start at like 200,000 for a 2-bedroom with barely any space, when actually it should be affordable housing.
It's the same thing here. They're building millionaire houses, but they're not building regular people houses or apartments.
I know. My favorite story about that is just completely off track now. George Lucas, who owns like massive swathes of that county where he built Skywalker Ranch and Industrial Light and Magic and all that, he'd been trying to build this like massive cinema complex, and like it was going to have like a school and a facility of excellence, and it was going to teach like the next generation of filmmakers, and it was going to be like this hub of creativity. And his rich asshole neighbors would like blocking the development of this thing for like 10 years. They just didn't want anything to do with it. So he was like, fuck it, I'll do a loophole. And he just did away with that and built affordable housing, because you didn't need to apply for permission to do that because the county was so desperate for it. So he built all of these affordable homes that went to like immigrants and stuff, and his neighbors were furious. And he was like, well, fuck you. You should have gotten on board with my original idea then.
That is my favorite story of the month.
Yeah, there you go. George Lucas building affordable houses to fuck over his neighbors. That's really funny. So yeah, anyway, back to David Icke. Yeah, he recalls hiding under a chair when the councilman came round for the actual rent. After knocking, the rent man would walk around the house, peering through windows. His mother would never explain what was going on. She just told Icke that they needed to hide, basically, which is really, really sad. He wrote in 2003 that he still gets a fright when someone knocks on the door. That's really sad.
That is some trauma right there. Yeah, and I guess I can understand it.
Yeah, when you have no money and you are being hassled for money, there is very little scarier in this world than that sort of situation. And, you know, having someone who's lived on the breadline after they got out of university and stuff and barely, like, I had to choose sometimes between, like, because I had an electric meter, so I had to put a little card in that I would top up, and it was all storage heaters so that it would go super quickly because they weren't very efficient at all. It was sometimes a choice between like a proper full food shop or like a really warm apartment that month. So like you were relying on like donations of food from people you know, or like someone to take you out for lunch for like a lot of the food, and I was really unhealthy at that time. So yeah,
it's a bummer that if you
we're back there
don't
right
work,
now.
you starve.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that this early trauma is going to play out a little bit, and we'll get to that now. Icke has said that he made no effort. Oh, sorry, I've skipped over a bit here. He attended Whitehall Infant School and then Whitehall Junior School. Icke has said that he made no effort at school, but when he was 9, he was chosen for the junior school's third-year football team. He writes that this was the first time he'd succeeded in anything, and he came to see football as his way out of poverty. He played in goal, which he wrote suited the loner in him and gave him a sense of living on the edge between hero and villain. You're just a fucking goalkeeper, mate. You're not Batman. Calm
he just like
down.
Balls off his face.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to say
it. I am the goalkeeper. After failing his 11 plus exams in 1963, which was like, I think that was like the GCSEs back then, what you took at 16. Oh no, well, it's 11 plus, so he's taking them at 11. He was sent to the city's Crown Hill Secondary Modern School rather than the local grammar school, which is where like the higher achieving students would have gone, where he was given a trial for Leicester City boys under 14s team. He left school at 15, which was quite common at that point. Like if you were shit at school, they were just like, bye, go and find a trade.
We're done with you.
Yeah, you're done. You're never going to amount to anything. Go and find a trade. He left school at 15 after being talent spotted by Coventry City Football Club, who signed him up in 1967 as their youth team's goalkeeper. In 1968, he played in the Coventry City youth team that were runners-up to Burnley in the FA Youth Cup. He also played at Oxford. He played for Oxford United reserve team and Northampton Town on loan from Coventry, so that they'll send players out on loan so that they can get a bit of first team football and maybe help them realize their potential. However, rheumatoid arthritis in his left knee which spread to the right knee, ankles, elbows, wrists, and hands.
Ouch.
Your entire fucking body, mate. Jesus. Stopped him from making a career out of football. That's really bad. Despite stating that he was often in agony during training, Icke managed to play part-time for Hereford United, including in the first team when they were in the 4th and later in the 3rd division of English Football League. So like right down the pyramid, like that really low-level football right now. But in 1973, at the age of 21, the pain in his joints had become so severe that he was forced to retire at 21.
That's, yeah, he's just grinding bone on bone, but that's usually like what, in your 70s? That stuff just gets at you.
That's the kind of thing you should be. If that happened to a 21-year-old now, there would be series of tests to find out genetically what has gone wrong there, because nobody gets that level of rheumatoid arthritis at 21. That's not normal.
You think maybe it was like from malnutrition or something like that?
Maybe. And it might have been a combination of that and a bunch of other shit, but I definitely think there's an element of genetic stuff, because nobody gets rheumatoid arthritis at 21. That's like that. That's crazy. The loss of Icke's position with Hereford meant that he and his wife had to sell their home, and for several weeks they lived apart, each moving in with their parents. In 1973, Icke found a job as a reporter with the weekly Leicester Advertiser through a contact who was the sports editor of the Daily Mail. Boo, we don't like them. Fuck the Daily Mail. He moved on to the Leicester News Agency and did some work for BBC Radio Leicester as its football reporter. So he's staying in that world, which is a very smart thing. You know, he's talented.
Do what you know.
Guy. Yeah, exactly. Do what you know. And if you've got a flair for broadcasting, you'll go far. And then worked his way through the Loughborough Monitor, the Leicester Mercury, and BRMB Radio in Birmingham, a radio station I used to work for like 20-something years ago. I'm not going to say how many, but 20-something years ago. It was a while ago. In 1976, Icke worked for 2 months in Saudi Arabia, helping with the national football team. His position on the team was planned to be a long-term thing, but Icke decided to stay in the UK after his first holiday back. He probably just started talking about his various conspiracies, and they were just like, get this fucking guy out of our country, please. He's out of his mind. After his successful return to the UK, BRMB decided to give him his old job back, after which he successfully applied to Midlands Today at the BBC's Pebble Mill Studios in Birmingham, a job that included on-air appearances. One of the earliest stories he covered there was the murder of Carl Bridgewater, the paperboy shot during a robbery in 1978. That's a very famous case in the UK. It was really shocking at the time.
He was shot during a robbery?
He was shot during a robbery. Yeah, he was out doing his paper round, just shot.
Wow.
So I know, yeah. That did not happen very often in the UK. So the fact that a boy had been shot. Guns. Yeah, we don't. I mean, we haven't had guns really since Lockerbie. So the Dunblane. Dunblane was someone just walked into a school in Dunblane and killed like 15 school kids, and they were all junior school kids, so like 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds.
When was that?
And a teacher. This is 1993, 4, 5, something like that. And as soon as it happened, we banned guns in this country, and there hasn't been a mass shooting since.
Oh, so really?
Not a single
one. Is that
one.
what we should do, you think?
Thank you. I'm thinking banning guns is probably a good idea. Look, I know it's never going to happen, but you don't need AR-15s to hunt like deer. Just handguns.
And you're not allowed to just ban idiots. So
no, you can't ban idiots. We've tried eugenics. It doesn't work. So yeah, that's basically what happened. But yeah, there wasn't that often. It was usually, and there are still gun issues, like people getting replica guns modified to be normal working guns, but it's rare.
Bad guy's gonna bad guy.
Bad guy's gonna bad guy, but certainly not to the extent that random lunatics in the States do. You know, like it doesn't happen here anymore. And people might get stabbed from time to time, but even that's on the decline now. We had a bit of a problem a few years ago, but it's nowhere near as bad now. So yeah, ban your guns, folks. They're not worth it. So yeah, one of the earliest stories he covered was the killing of Carl Bridgewater, the paperboy shot during a robbery in 1978. In 1981, Icke became a sports presenter for the BBC's national programme Newsnight, which had begun the previous year. 2 years later, on the 17th of January 1983, he appeared on the first edition of the BBC's Breakfast Time show, British television's first national breakfast show, 1983.
Wow.
I know. We just had
That's
the
like-
news.
That's
in the
like Good
morning.
Morning America type thing?
Basically, yeah. Only
Okay.
like British and formal.
Okay. Do they drink tea?
No, God, no. They're all in suits and they're all fucking stiff as boards and like, this is the news, but also a puppy. So that's basically it. But yeah, no, it's amazing that we didn't get shit like that until like the 80s. But basically, before then, it was just the news. We just got the news in the morning, so that was it. In 1983, he co-hosted Grandstand, at the time the BBC's flagship national sports program that was typically watched by between 15 and 20 million people every single week. He also published his first book that year, even though he's like still in his like late 20s. It's a tough game, son, about how to break into football, which is actually like that's kind of a cool thing to do at that time. You know, a lot of people don't know how to get into football. So if there are kids out there that are like, how do I get into it? Do I have to write to someone? You read this book, you're like, oh, okay, I just have to play at this level and a scout will find me. And, you know, like it was a mystery at that time. So
It's
good for
important to
him.
have that kind of information out there, and it's super cool that he would share that with people. A lot of people
Absolutely.
hold on to that.
Yeah, and that's really cool that he's like helping other people in that potential way. So yeah, I'm pleased that he did that. That's the last nice thing we'll probably say about him. Icke and his family moved in 1982 to Ryde on the Isle of Wight. His relationship with Grandstand was short-lived. He wrote that a new editor arrived in 1983 who appeared not to like him. I wonder why. We'll get to that in a second. But he continued working for the BBC and BBC Sport until 1990, often on things like bowls. Just Google bowls. It's the most fucking British
How do you spell
thing.
it?
B, as in like bowls, like bowl of cereal.
Okay.
Yeah, bowls. It's the most boring shit. And snooker, which is like pool for people who hate fun. Yeah. So if you look at bowls, it's the audience are all 80-year-olds. And they they love that shit. Oh my god, they love bowls.
It's like bocce ball almost, huh?
Pretty much, yeah. Only boring as fuck.
Okay.
Corduroy and like flammable garments are the uniform of the day, and then snooker, which is like, everybody be quiet. Oh, what a wonderful shot. That was amazing. That's the greatest thing I've ever seen in snooker. No, God. Anyway, those were his things. And he also covered the 1988 Summer Olympics. So that's quite a big gig right there. He'll have earned good money for that.
Oh, yeah.
Icke was by then a household name, but had seen a career. He has said that a career in television began to lose its appeal to him. He found television work as insecure, shallow, and sometimes vicious. FYI, he was earning hundreds of thousands of pounds at this point in the 80s. So it's quite a career to give up. You know, millions of pounds in today's money. So
just because he was sick of it. All this
they're so nasty to me. Oh my god. So in August 1990, his contract with the BBC was terminated when he initially refused to pay the community charge, also known as the poll tax, which was a local tax that Margaret Thatcher's government introduced that year. It started a wave of riots and urban unrest, and it was one of the things that eventually led to Thatcher's like departure like 4 years later. Like she went from being like, in the eyes of some conservatives, like, oh, you know, she's a bit of a Nazi, but she's quite good. Like conservative voters would see it like that, but they're like, oh my god, she's trying to make us poor, because the poll tax was basically like, you pay your taxes and now this other tax which is the same again. So basically taking as much money off people as possible. It was a tax on a tax, basically.
Oh wow.
So he refused to pay it and they sacked him because the BBC is it's not government funded, it's funded by the taxpayer, but at the same time it's like kind of somewhat tied to the government. He ultimately paid it, but he announced that he was willing to go to prison rather than pay prompted by the BBC, which is quite a brazen thing to do. But I'm actually with him on that, because the poll tax, which never went through and has morphed into the council tax, which is a much more reasonable tax where you fund like the police, the fire department, and the local, like the bin collectors and stuff like that. And it's like 80 quid a month. Like, I don't mind paying that for
Super interesting
roads.
how you guys do that there.
Yeah. Also, the NHS is paid by the national insurance, which is like, I don't know, maybe £26 a month. Totally free healthcare. So I know, it's crazy. And yeah, so he was sacked. Icke began to engage with alternative medicine around this time and New Age philosophy in the 1980s in an effort to relieve his arthritis, which I can understand. You're going to do anything to get rid of your pain, right?
Is it magnets?
It probably. And like anything you can think of, it will be crazy. And this encouraged his interest in green politics. He joined the Green Party and became a national spokesperson within 6 months, which is good. Like, at this point, I'm kind of on this guy's side, almost 100%. You know, he didn't want to pay an unfair tax. He's working in an industry that's driving him mad, and he's like going into green politics. He's trying to relieve his pain. He's helping people get into a sport he loved. I like this guy right now.
Yeah, he's racking up the good points.
He is, and he's about to throw them all away. So yeah, he joined the Green Party. His second book, It Doesn't Have to Be Like This, an outline of his views on the environment, was published in 1989. Why didn't he just replace his entire skeleton with someone else's? That's what my grandpa did. Yeah, I mean, you could probably get that on the NHS. You wouldn't even have to pay for the prescriptions. That's super cheap. Normal procedure on the
skeletal transplant.
Yes, skeletal transplant. Just John Travolta. He wakes up and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm Nicolas Cage now." So let me see. He's let me see. I wrote up that he was considerable personal. Okay, I've lost a whole chunk here. Icke wrote that in 1980. Yeah, I'm getting used to it now. Icke wrote that in 1989 was a time of considerable personal despair. It was during this time that he was said to have begun to feel a presence around him. Yeah, he
like
often described. Yeah, sort of. We'll get to that. He often describes how he felt it while alone in a hotel room in March 1990, and finally asked, "If there is anybody here, will you please contact me because you're driving me up the wall?"
No.
No, mate, you're doing that yourself. Days later, in a newspaper shop in Ryde, he felt a force push his feet to the ground and heard a voice guide him towards some books. One of them was Mind to Mind, 1989, by Betty Shine, a psychic healer from Brighton. He read the book and then wrote to her requesting a consultation about his arthritis. Hi. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Volodin? Welcome to the podcast. Hello. So, yeah. He visited Shine 4 times during the third meeting on the 29th of March, 1990. Icke claims to have felt something like a spider's web on his face. Maybe you walked through a spider's web. And Shine told him she had a message from Wang Yi Li of the spirit world. Who is that? I don't know. I chose a bad nickname. Sorry. That's fine. Don't worry. This is a good name. Volodin. That's fine.
Pavlovian?
Pavlodin. I think the P's silent, right? Pavolodin. I don't know. It's fine. It works. No criticism there. Icke had been sent to the. So this is what the psychic told him. Oh, sorry, Wang Yi Li of the spirit world told him. Icke had been sent to heal the earth, like Michael Jackson. She said, and would become famous, but would face opposition. The spirit world was going to pass ideas to him, which he would speak about to others. So, just a thing to psychics out there: don't tell someone who's probably clearly suffering with depression at this point that they've been sent to Earth from heaven to heal the Earth, and that they're going to get messages from the spirit world.
This guy's kind of reminding me of that French alien guy, only with TV instead of magazines. And
oh yeah,
soccer instead of race cars.
It's It gets much worse very quickly. And Toaster is right. David is losing his mind fast. Yes, very fast. Unfortunately, he believed the psychic. He would write 5 books in 3 years. In 20 years, and so this is what his claims were in these books. Okay, prepare yourself now. In 20 years' time, a new flying machine would allow us to go wherever we wanted, and time would have no meaning. That hasn't happened yet. And there would be earthquakes in unusual places because the inner Earth, hollow Earth theory, was being destabilized by having oil taken from under the seabed. Also something that hasn't happened yet.
I think that's how it works.
Yes. And in February 1991, David Icke visited a pre-Inca Sulestani burial ground near Puno in Peru, where he felt drawn to a particular circle of waist-high stones. As he stood in the circle, he had 2 thoughts: that people would be talking about this in 100 years, and that it would be over when it rained. What?
Okay.
Kind of crazy.
I don't know. I've been high, standing, wasted somewhere
we've all
too.
done peyote, haven't we? It's kind of crazy. His body shook as though plunged into an electric socket, he wrote, and new ideas poured into him. Then it started raining and the experience ended. Wow, what a coincidence. He described it as the Kundalini, not a sex thing, a term from Hindu yoga, activating his chakras or energy centers and triggering a high level of consciousness / delusion. That's the last part's me. There followed what Icke called his turquoise period, and he had been channeling for some time, he wrote, and had received a message through automatic writing that he was, here it is, the son of the Godhead, interpreting Godhead as the infinite mind, slowly turning into the British David Koresh at this point.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And to mark his turning into what he called his turquoise period, David Icke started wearing these.
It's turquoise.
It's turquoise, and it's a shell suit, and it's the most 1991 thing you will ever see in the history of humankind. He's got you people who are listening to this podcast after the fact won't realize what's going on. He's wearing, as we just said, a turquoise shell suit with a nice pink flare to it as well. He's also wearing some sort of like turquoise thing, collar, shirt maybe underneath that. And then we've got this incredibly early 90s purple background going on. Yeah, so that's David Icke during his turquoise period.
And he looks like he's saying, mwah.
Yeah. Oh, I love this turquoise shell suit. It fits me so well. I'm not sweating at all. So that's David Icke, and that's the least intense he'll ever get. He's also doing the Italian hand gesture. Good point, Toasterzoid. I'm sorry. We've lost Voladin, and Toasterzoid. Believe me, it will get slightly less confusing, but only slightly less confusing. So he began to wear only the color turquoise, as we saw, and often a turquoise shell suit, a color he saw as a conduit for positive energy and ridicule. He also started working on his 3rd book and the first of his new age period, The Truth Vibrations, which has become a hit with like crazy conspiracy theorists who love that shit. Let's see. In August 1990, before his visit to Peru, Icke met Deborah Shaw, an English psychic based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. When he returned from Peru, they began a relationship with the apparent blessing of Icke's wife. Was that being her open-minded or getting things in place so she could divorce him later down the line? I feel like it's one of the two.
It's maybe a little both.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. In March 1991, Shaw began living with the couple, a short-lived arrangement that the press called the Turquoise Triangle. I fucking love that name. Shaw changed her name to Mary Shawson, while Icke's wife became Michaela, which she said was an aspect of the Archangel Michael. The craziness is spreading. It's becoming crazy.
How do you mix Hindu with Christian stuff?
Because they're white.
Because you just do whatever you want. I'm going to mix it all together in this bowl, and whatever works for
all
now.
of the culture into one big ball of crazy. The relationship with Shaw led to the birth of a daughter in December 1991, although she and Icke had by then ceased their relationship. Icke wrote in 1993 that he decided not to visit his daughter and had seen her only once. Jesus. At Shaw's request. Fuck me, this guy's turned into Steve Jobs over here.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah. See, great minds. We're connected by the Godhead. Icke's wife gave birth to the couple's second son in November 1992. It seems like this is his orgy period, basically.
Yeah.
In March 1991, Icke resigned from the Green Party during a party conference, telling the people in attendance that he was about to be the center of tremendous and increasing controversy. Well, he won a standing ovation from the delegates after the announcement. Yay, he's leaving. Oh, thank fuck for that. It was this. Usually the Hindu deities are much more chill and laid back than the Christian ones. That's for sure. The Christian one.
Yeah, but Michael has a sword.
Yes, but yes, of course, much more chilled. No, that's true. And in March 1990, yeah, I've already covered that. A week later, shortly after his father died, ooh, there's more trauma there. Icke and his wife, Linda Atherton, along with their daughter Anne Deborah Shaw, held a press conference where Icke announced that he was the son of the Godhead. Hi, everyone. You remember me from Grandstand? I used to talk about bowls and snooker. I'm the son of God now.
I'm doing that. I don't care. I'm going to hold a press conference and I'm just going to say ridiculous shit and see what happens.
Yeah. Hi. Spain doesn't exist. Hi, everyone. This is me. Give me attention, please. And Azrael is hung like a horse. I just made that up. No, that's a David Icke storyline. We'll probably get to that in a little bit. Yeah. So he told reporters that the world was going to end in 1997. A little bit off there. It did. This is all an illusion. And it would be preceded by a hurricane around the Gulf of Mexico and New Orleans, which happens basically every year. Eruptions in Cuba, disruptions in China. No specifics there, just disruptions. So maybe, I don't know, the supply of corn runs out. That's a disruption.
It's one of those little things standing in the road and there's a traffic jam.
Yeah, that's it. There's your disruption right there. Oh no, the battery on someone's phone died. Oh god, disruption in China. Here comes the apocalypse. A hurricane in Derry, Ireland. That never fucking happened. And an earthquake on the Isle of Arran. That's fucking random. That's up in the north of Scotland. The information was being given to him by voices, not the voices, and automatic writing, he said. Los Angeles would become an island. There's more shoreline development prospects there. So, it's probably a good thing. New Zealand would disappear. No specifics on that either. Just pop, gone.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah. And the cliffs off Kent would be underwater by Christmas. But which part of the festive period, David? At least give people some chance to get and see their loved ones before the tide arrives, So, yeah. News headlines following Icke's press conference attracted requests for interviews from Nicky Campbell's BBC Radio 1 programme, from Terry Wogan's primetime Wogan talk show, and Fern Britton's ITV chat show. Wogan introduced the 1991 segment with "The world as we know it is about to end," amid laughter from the audience. Wogan was watched by basically the entire nation at this point, so this is the death of his mainstream career right now.
Wogan or Icke?
Terry Wogan. He had like a chat show. He was a radio presenter, then he had a TV show, and then he went back to radio, and he never had less than 9 million viewers. 9 million listeners on radio.
Okay.
Viewers, he had like 4 times that sometimes. So like 3/4 of the nation would watch him at some point. So yes, the crowd are already laughing at him. Icke demurred when asked if he was the son of God, replying that Jesus would have been laughed at too, and repeated that Britain would soon be devastated by tidal waves and earthquakes. Somehow Terry Wogan, who's like a master of interviewing, because he's generally he's a really nice guy, got a really kind of deep voice. He's got an Irish accent. So it's like people are kind of, their senses are, their guards down a little bit. So they're like, oh, this is my friend. He's going to be nice to me. But he kept a straight face through all of this while the audience is laughing, and David Icke is just spewing these insane bullshit things. Without these, the earth will cease to exist. When Icke said laughter was the best way to remove negativity, Wogan replied to the audience, "But they're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you."
Oh
shit. The BBC was criticized for allowing it to go ahead. Des Christie of The Guardian called it media crucifixion. That's funny. This is starting to sound like Team Fortress 2 lore. It's that crazy, yeah, and it only gets crazier. The interview led to a difficult period for Icke. In May 1991, police were called to the couple's home after a crowd of over 100 youths gathered outside chanting, "We want the Messiah," and "Give us a sign, David." I think.
Were they making fun of him, though?
Yeah, they were.
See, every time I get popular, I just think that's what they're doing.
That me too. I with such imposter syndrome. We're just like everyone's. Do they mean it? Do they really like us? But in the case of David Icke, no, they didn't. They didn't really think he was the Messiah. Icke told John Ronson, our old friend John Ronson, hanging around with more idiots again in 2001, "One of my greatest fears as a child was being ridiculed in public, so I decided to have a breakdown on national television." And, and there it was, coming true. As a television presenter, I'd been respected. Maybe, sort of.
Disrespected?
I mean, I don't think people respect TV presenters. I think they think they're interesting and lucky because they get paid a shitload of money. But yeah, to put that into perspective, the TF2 law, Abraham Lincoln was a pyromaniac who invented stairs. Wow, I really need to catch up on that. That sounds amazing.
Am I in the wrong universe again?
I think this might be a Monument Mythos thing almost at this point. That's kind of amazing. So back to David Icke. People come up to you in the street and shake your hand when you're a TV presenter and talk to you in a respectful way. Really, that's fucking weird. And suddenly overnight, this has transformed into Icke's a nutter. Yeah. I couldn't walk down. I couldn't walk down any street in Britain without being laughed at. It was a nightmare. My children were devastated because their dad was a figure of ridicule, and he wore turquoise shell suits everywhere. So it's pretty easy to spot him.
It was really the latter that they were most embarrassed about.
I would say so. Yeah, in 2006, Wogan interviewed Icke again for a special Wogan Now and Then series. Wogan was apologetic for his conduct in the 1991 interview. However, in his biography, Mustn't Grumble, Terry Wogan described Icke as being a ranting and demagogue convinced he were... sorry, let me start this again. Ranting demagogue convinced we were all manipulated sheep. It's the birth of the sheeple meme right there. David Icke, the originator of sheeple. I mean, I've cut this bit short because I could go on about David Icke for literally a year at this point. He's done so much insane shit. He's gone on to write dozens of crazy books, with like increasingly cheap looking covers. And they're all like hundreds of pages long because it's all auto writing. So he's just writing whatever the fuck comes into his mind at that point.
Really? You can put out books that way?
Yes. And idiots will publish them because they sell. People like reading conspiracy theories.
I feel less like a failure then because I'm like, I can't ever finish a book. And this he's a goofball and he's got 6.
This guy never edits himself. Oh no, he's written dozens.
Oh, okay.
Dozens, and they are hundreds of pages long. It's like Stephen King of insane bullshit, basically, at this point. Icke, so let's get to the main reason I'm covering him, the conspiracy theories. Icke combines New Age philosophical discussion about the universe and consciousness with conspiracy theories about public figures being reptilian humanoids and pedophiles. So he's one of the modern godfathers of this bullshit. This is where a lot of it starts.
This fucking guy's fault.
It's this guy's fault. He argues in favor of reincarnation, a collective consciousness that has intentionally modal realism that has intentionality. So I don't know. Modal realism that other possible worlds exist outside of ours, and the so-called law of attraction that good and bad thoughts can attract experiences. I mean, that's fine. That's New Age stuff.
Right. That's along my lines of thinking.
Yeah, like I'm okay with that. It's the reptilian people that I have a problem with. In The Biggest Secret, published in 1999, he introduced the idea that many prominent figures derive from the Anunnaki, a reptilian race from the Draco constellation. There you go. You know who he is now.
Yes, I do. Hey, to be fair, I really like some of that stuff. It's really good stories. As long as you're listening to it like it's stories.
It's stories. It's L. Ron Hubbard levels of insane bullshit stories and nothing else.
The only thing that does make me annoyed, though, is when they come out and they say like that Ancient Aliens is racist because it's like, nah, they didn't say they were white. They just said they were from somewhere else.
Yeah. David Icke might be racist though. We'll get to that in this point because there's a number of connections that are like
makes sense.
Yeah. A good point from Toastsword here. The rectal reptilian conspiracy. He hasn't quite gone there yet, but not far off. In human race, get off your knees. The lion sleeps no more. Great title from 2012. He identified that the moon and then later Saturn as the source of holographic experiences broadcast by the reptiles that humanity interprets as reality. Did they relocate from the moon to Saturn? Is real estate just cheaper on a gas giant?
I don't know, but I heard the moon was just a spaceship, and that's where they all came from.
Superstructure.
And it's hollow if you knock on it with a hammer or some shit.
That's it. Yeah, you see, David Icke's missing a trick here. He's too focused on these reptilians and stuff like that. Icke is an opponent of the scientific method, describing it as bollocks. Well, that's a great argument, David. When asked by the Sunday Times to explain the existence of television, he said, "It's not that all science is bollocks, but rather the basis of the way science judges reality is bollocks." And David Icke criticizing people's grasp on reality there. He also thinks climate change is a hoax.
Oh, boy.
So there's a shocker. Yeah. Icke believes that an interdimensional race of reptilian beings called the Arkans have hijacked the Earth and are stopping humanity from realizing its true potential. He claims that they are the same beings as the Anunnaki, deities from the Babylonian creation myth that Anuma Elis and the fallen angels or watchers who mated with human women in the biblical Apocrypha. I don't know.
Nephilims.
Yeah, it's like crazy fucking bullshit now. He believes that a genetically modified human/Arkan hybrid race of shape-shifting reptilians known as the Babylonian Brotherhood or the Illuminati, them again, manipulate global events to keep humans in constant fear so that Arkans can feed off the negative energy this creates.
Oh, man, they're fucking eating it up right now.
Yeah,
they're
I know.
loving life on this planet.
I know, and that's what he does, and that's what a lot of conspiracy theories do. They take like a grain, like you've talked about this before. They take a grain of truth, a grain of reality. Where you're like, oh yeah, that's actually happening, and then they're like, and reptilians, and the queen is a lizard, and like, okay, hold on, wait, you were onto something for a bit, and now you're off the reservation. In The Biggest Secret, Icke identified the Brotherhood as descendants of the reptilians from the constellation Draco and said that they live in caverns inside the Earth. Icke said in an interview, "When you get back into the ancient world, you find this recurring theme of a union between non-human race and humans creating a hybrid race. From 1998, I started coming across people who would tell me they had seen people change into a non-human form. It's an age-old phenomenon known as shape-shifting." That's quite a new thing, really. The basic form is like a scaly humanoid with reptilian rather than humanoid eyes. Icke claims that the first reptilian human breeding programs took place 200 to 300,000 years ago. There or thereabouts.
Oh, yeah, old RHBs.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Perhaps creating Adam. And the third and latest happened 7,000 years ago. He claims the hybrids of the third program, which are more Anunnaki than human, currently control the world. He writes in The Biggest Secret, "The Brotherhood which controls the world is the modern expression of the Babylonian Brotherhood of reptilian, Aryan priests and royalty." Here we go. It's starting to get anti-Semitic. Icke states that they came together in Sumer after the flood, but originated in the Caucasus. He explains that when he uses the term Aryan, he means the white race. So, thank you for clearing that up. That makes it so much easier. Is he trying to explain why humans have dead skin sometimes? I mean, basically, yeah.
I would love to be able to molt like a lizard.
Oh, could you imagine? It'd be so much easier. It'd be like
think how refreshing that would be.
Yeah, just leave like a shell of you behind. Like, yeah, deal with that. We'll put it on the garden. It's good for the compost. Icke has stated that the reptilians come from not another planet, but another dimension. The lower level of the fourth dimension, to be exact. The lower astral dimension. The one nearest the physical world. but from this dimension, they control the planet. Although, just as a fourth dimensional reptilians control us, they in turn are controlled by a fifth dimension. It just keeps on going up, people. There's
It's a
layers to this onion.
Russian nesting doll of control.
of control and
God.
delusion. Yes. It's like Marvel Comics level of cosmic stupidity at this point. Michael Barkin argues that Icke's introduction of different dimensions allowed him to skip awkward questions about how the reptilians got here. Yeah, exactly. Icke believes that the only way this archontic influence can be defeated is if people wake up to the truth and fill their hearts with love. It's also vague. My question is, why is it just Earth, or does this happen to aliens as well? No, he doesn't go into detail about that. He only knows about the Earth stuff because he's the son of the
you
Godhead.
can't expect him to know everything.
I mean, come on, just they give him local knowledge. He doesn't need to know the bigger stuff.
He just is mixing shit together, though. It's like, pick one, man. You got contradicting theories here.
Exactly. Contradicting crazy ass theories. Back in 2003, Icke claimed that the reptilian bloodline includes all then 43 American presidents, 3 British and 2 Canadian prime ministers, several Sumerian kings and Egyptian pharaohs, and a smattering of celebrities. Key
Definitely
bloodlines.
Paul Rudd.
Oh, yeah. For sure. That guy doesn't age at all. Key bloodlines are said to include the Rockefellers. Not a lizard. I've actually done that in a live stream. I've actually denied that I was a lizard. The Rothschilds, of course, the Rothschilds, and various European aristocratic families, the established families of the Eastern United States, and the British House of Windsor, because why not? Chuck them in there as well. Icke claimed he saw British Prime Minister Edward Heath's eyes turn entirely jet black while the two men waited for a Sky News interview in 1989.
On MDMA.
Yeah, he was just tripping balls, man. He's just come out of an all-nighter. He confirmed to Andrew Neil in May 2016 that he believes the British royal family are shape-shifting lizards. Good times.
I agree,
man. Yeah, I mean, why else do they live so long? It's almost like they've got access to the best healthcare in the world and millions upon millions of dollars to flitter away on like eating swans and crazy shit like that.
Nah, it's because they're reptilians.
Because
it has nothing to do with the real shit.
To do with cutting edge healthcare. In 2001, Icke said the Queen Mother was seriously reptilian as opposed to vaguely reptilian. The Rothschilds, in Icke's opinion, are also blood-drinking Satan worshippers, which Daniel Allington and David Toby argued in 2018 was part of a revival of the medieval anti-Semitic attitudes towards Jews. It's 100% that.
David Icke is Q.
Yeah, he is. He's QAnon. He's also mentioned that multiple times. The only non-lizard celebrity is the one true Lord and Savior, Keanu Reeves, who will free us from our oppressors and take his rightful place as God Emperor of humanity. I mean, yeah, that man does not age either. Him and Paul Rudd, man, they're basically vampires at this point.
They're both awesome.
They're both awesome and lovely guys. Icke sometimes calls the reptilian plot the unseen. After a 2018 talk by Icke in Southport, Merseyside, Michael Marshall reported the appearance of the unseen in the Middle East about 2,000 years ago seems to be no coincidence. And it's a little wonder that Icke's work is also considered massively anti-Semitic. However, if we were to accept that Icke himself does not hold such views and that his work is merely co-opted by groups who undeniably are anti-Semitic, we also have to acknowledge that Icke often does his case no favors, which is absolutely true. Like, why are all my friends Nazis?
Yeah,
why?
I tried to fight for it, but I can't even defend him. It gets
so much worse. It gets so much worse. Critics view Icke's reptilians and other theories as anti-Semitic and accuse him of Holocaust denial. Critics claim that Icke's reptilians are symbolic representations of Jews, when Icke called total frigging nonsense, adding that there is no plot on the world by Jewish people. Icke has rejected.
They don't exist. They're reptilians.
They're really lizards. Icke rejected the assertion he is a Holocaust denier. Icke has been identified by the Center of Countering Digital Hate as a leading producer of misinformation about COVID-19, as well as anti-Semitic content. Here we go. In 2020, in April 2020, Icke claimed in a YouTube video on Brian Rose's London Real channel, I've never heard of that there was a link between the COVID-19 pandemic and 5G mobile phone networks. There we go.
Oh, boy.
The big question here is, are the reptilians submissive and breedable? I think we could domesticate them. I think, get them a little house in the garden.
Lizards freak me out. They're going to have to send me to wherever they're not.
I held a snake for the first time a few years ago. It just curled up and went to sleep in my crotch. It was kind of cute. I was like, oh, and it was like looking up at me. And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cute. I don't mind you now. So.
I can't. I had a rattlesnake.
Oh, yeah, you had one in your kitchen, didn't you?
No, that was a scorpion, which
sorry.
I had in the bathroom the other day.
Oh, shit.
But no, I had a rattlesnake strike at me and get caught in my pants while I was doing pest control, and ever since then I've had an unhealthy fear of snakes.
That would do it for you. I mean, that's totally healthy. I just got to cuddle with a cutie, and they're just like, oh, I'm just like, oh, you're warm. You radiate heat. I'm like, yeah, I'm always fucking warm, mate. So the video was removed from the platform, and YouTube tightened its rules to prevent its website being used to spread conspiracy theories about the COVID-19 pandemic. That's unusually swift of them. It was also later deleted from Facebook. Multiple mobile phone masts were subject to arson attacks at the time, as well as telecoms engineers being abused and physically assaulted in the streets. Thanks, David Icke, you fucking idiot.
That's about to kick off again here in a minute. They turned on 5G around major airports here in the U.S. today, and they were worried it was going to interfere with things. But guess what? Nothing fell out of the sky yet.
Of course not. That's not how waves work, people. They doesn't. Nick Cohen of The Observer thought Icke was ambiguous as to whether the phone mast should be left alone. Icke said in the London Real interview, if 5G continues and reaches where they want to take it, human life as we know it is over. So people have to make a decision. That's a direct quote. He's not even trying to be subtle anymore. And London Live screened a similar interview with Icke about coronavirus on the 8th of April 2020. He made an unsupported claim that Israel was using the crisis to test its technology and suggested any attempt to require people to be vaccinated against COVID-19 amounted to fascism. He really has a thing for Jewish people.
But he's not anti-Semitic.
He's not anti-Semitic.
But it's the Jewish people.
The Jewish people who happen to live in Israel. After Ofcom's formal investigation, the UK media regulator decided that the 80-minute interview broke the terms of the broadcast code as it expressed views which had the potential to cause significant harm to viewers in London during the pandemic, which were made without the support of any scientific or other evidence. I mean, yeah, he's just talking bollocks and making it up as he goes along. Israel, reptilians, taking over the human race.
Saturn's a projector.
Saturn. Yeah, there we go. Fourth dimension, controlled by the bit. It's just like he's got a playbook in his head at this point.
What's in the upper fourth dimension? I wonder if they're in the lower.
Because they're in the lower dimensions. So I wonder if like the upper dimensions, yeah. Oh my god, yeah, they're like flying around, judging people. Oh my god, what's in the fifth dimension? Like, is that like space babies? I don't give him ideas. Don't give him ideas. He'll just run with it. Icke's main Facebook page was deleted on the 1st of May 2020. Happy May Day. While other pages on the site promoting Icke with a smaller readership remained on the platform. Facebook said it had removed Icke's page for its health misinformation that could cause physical harm. True. His YouTube channel was later deleted, a day later. A spokeswoman for YouTube told the BBC News YouTube has clear policies prohibiting any content that disputes the existence and transmission of COVID-19 as described by the WHO and the NHS. Due to continued violation of these policies, we've terminated David Icke's YouTube channel. Man, they move fast. Oh, that's a good one, Toasterzoid. The upper fourth dimension has anime cat girls. Yeah, it does. What's in the sixth dimension? Oh, God.
I feel like I'm super worried sometimes about whether or not my super dry satire making fun of how ridiculous some of them are is going to be taken wrong as that I'm spreading misinformation. And I,
No.
as much as I love conspiracy theories and that sort of stuff, they're all absolutely ridiculous
Yeah.
until they're not.
Particularly David Icke's.
Yeah.
Like, these are
Well,
crazy.
yeah, his stuff is nuts, and it mashes a bunch of different nut stuff together
It
to where it's
does.
like, dude, it's like, I guess, I don't know, like the Superman syndrome, where it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, he can fly and he can't be shot, and now he's got heat vision. Oh, and if he blows on you, you freeze. And what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, now he's invisible. Take that.
It's a whole bunch of added extra stuff. I kind of like, because so much original IPs are being snapped up now. I just wonder if Warner Brothers are going to make David Icke an offer for the Ickeverse, you know, all this crazy stuff, and turn it into an original series, you know, because it's so fantastical. It might work as a show because it's just bullshit.
It's at least 6 seasons.
Oh yeah, you can get a good 6 seasons out of that, and maybe like a spin-off. Icke's appearances in the videos uploaded by other users were only to be removed if the content breached the same rules. On 29th of August 2020, Icke was a speaker at an anti-lockdown protest in Trafalgar Square, London, organised under the Unite for Freedom banner. During his speech, he stated that anyone with half a brain cell on active duty can see that coronavirus is nonsense. And we have a virus so intelligent that it only affects those taking part in protests the government wants to stop. That's
Or
not how
it
that works.
spreads through close contact, and we have protests. You're standing next to people, you jackass.
Yeah, without wearing masks, coughing on each other, breathing on each other, maybe making out, getting high, sharing joints. You're going to get the COVID. Sorry. He also stated the world is controlled by a tiny few people. Here we go. Who imposed their agenda on billions of people. He told the police who were present at the rally that they were enforcing fascism that your children will have to live with, and urged them to join us and stop serving the psychopaths. This is like he's using the language, he's using the words that's similar to other stuff. In early November 2020, Twitter permanently suspended Icke's account on the platform for violating its rules regarding COVID-19 misinformation.
And then
Elon for the save. I thought you said that the Earth was controlled by tiny people. That would be so cool. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Earth is controlled by mice. So
that makes sense.
They've been running experiments on our scientists for years by running around mazes and seeing their reactions when they ran in a specific direction. Political research associations have described Icke's politics as a mishmash of most of the dominant themes of contemporary neo-fascism, mixed in with a smattering of topics culled from the US militia movement. He opposes gun control and you're British. What the fuck are you doing talking about gun control? And well, I just did so. Yeah, and claims that many mass shootings were orchestrated to increase public opposition to guns. Man, he's just every theory. He's got something in there.
He's got his hooks in everything.
Literally everything. He believes the US government carried out the Oklahoma City bombing. Why the fuck would they have done that? He endorses or recommends anti-Semitic and right-wing publications such as Spotlight and On Target, the magazine of the white supremacist group, the British League of Rights, and has been closely associated with anti-Semitic New Age periodicals such as Nexus and Rainbow Arc, a New Age magazine which is financed by far-right activists and affiliated with neo-Nazi National Front movement, which is awful. The neo-Nazi terrorist group Combat 18 promoted Icke's public speaking events in its internal journal Putsch. Of one such event, the journal wrote approvingly, Icke spoke of the sheep and how the Zionist-operated government, Illuminati, uses them for its own ends. He began to talk about the big conspiracy by a group of bankers, media moguls, etc., always being clever enough not to mention them with the common names.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Word. Like
that's
Kanye.
Where I'm leaving. He's using everything but the words. That's where I'm leaving David Icke. I could have done, like I said, 10,000 words. His Wikipedia page, it's like Bill Clinton's biography. It just never fucking ends. It's just on and on and on. He's probably got a conspiracy theory about that as well. So, I mean, you probably didn't know when I was talking about the early days and stuff. And actually, like, it started out really positive, the David Icke thing. But man, does he go off a cliff quick. What do you think about David Icke?
Well, to me, it's disappointing because I like conspiracy theories and I totally believe in question everything. Think about anything that's plausible and look into it more. There was, I believe, he gets David Icke is lumped in with like that Netflix thing where the guy was talking about the Younger Dryas and big floods, and some of that stuff is like we should look into things.
Yeah,
but
which is fine.
You don't automatically just believe the theories, and that's the thing with science, where you're trying to disprove your theory through testing. That's the scientific method.
Yeah.
Not you're trying to prove it, because that's how you get shit that's made up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably why David Icke doesn't believe in the scientific method, is because he just makes shit up and doesn't bother testing it. So it just takes grains of truth and filters it through his own crazy mind.
Tests it in ways that show it in a favorable light and in no ways that prove it wrong.
There's a Toastazoid here. I should find out where he lives and pound on his door and then go and hide before he opens it and do it over and over again to give him a panic attack. Please don't do that.
That's mean.
That's mean. But if you're going to do anything, maybe dress up as a lizard and walk around the Isle of Wight. Because that way you're not like triggering him. I don't think anyone should, no matter how horrible a person, don't trigger people's PTSD, but dress up as a lizard and say, "Oh, I'm the queen. I'm still alive. Look at me."
I'm getting an inflatable T-Rex suit.
Yes, there you go. Just run around the Isle of Wight. Where's David Icke?
Run around with a sign that says I'm a lizard person.
I'm a lizard person. Amazing. So...
God, I don't even know where to rate him other than...
No, it's not... I mean, he hasn't killed anyone, but... like,
it's the reckless mishmash of scary, dangerous shit that he's spreading.
Yeah, and John Ronson, again, he's another person who's covered in Them, which is John Ronson's book about kind of conspiracy theorists, and surprisingly, they all seem to come back to anti-Semitism. And that was the book that he also met what was it, Osama bin Laden's guy in London, who we've covered before, and like Ian Paisley and all these people who have very like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and stuff. David Icke features heavily in there, and John Ronson's basic summary was he doesn't know if David Icke is anti-Semitic, but he genuinely thinks that Icke believes everything he's saying. He thinks he's just completely gone.
I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
Exactly. That's the problem, isn't it?
And that is a solid ass idea, Toastazoid.
Yeah, dress up as a lizard with a tuxedo and inform him that that he's being sued by the Lizard People Rights Organization. That is, film it, put it on YouTube. You're guaranteed 1 million hits right there. I tell you. Oh my God.
Oh man. So when I call him crazy, I'm in no way disparaging towards mental illness. I'm just saying he's ridiculous.
Yes.
That is my way of saying ridiculous.
Same with me as well. Yeah.
This dude, he's dangerously ridiculous. And
he is.
And like for that reason, I think I'm going to go with an 82.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's a good rating for David Icke. Yeah, dangerous is the thing here, because he is a conduit for people who want to believe conspiracies, whether they realize they want to believe them or not, because ultimately it attracts a certain type of person. And, you know, we've all been at stages in our lives where we felt a little desperate and a little isolated, and maybe we wanted to believe something. And partially it's because as human beings, we're drawn to stories. You know, we're drawn to interesting narratives and stuff like that. And like kind of maybe everyone's out there to get them. And I'm all in the camp of Alan Moore, who wrote Watchmen and V for Vendetta and From Hell and all those amazing books. He said that it's very convenient for people to believe that Jewish bankers or lizard people, he even said lizard people, or dimensional beings are controlling the earth, because it's comforting to know somebody is in control and that you can rebel against this group because they're in power and you are the outsider and you are a rebel and a hero and stuff like that. He said the reality is much more scary. No one's in control. It's all chaos, and at any point in time you can die.
Exactly.
And
That is the truth. It's all chaos and nothing matters.
exactly. So as nihilistic as that is, I actually am more in line with Alan Moore's way of thinking there, that we're living in a mostly structured society, but at any point in time, anything can happen.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah.
and also this thing about they are mind controlling us. The Illuminati control the world. The shape-shifting lizards are taking over. If they are, what's taking them so fucking long? It's been 30 years of this bullshit at this point. What are they waiting for?
I honestly think there is mind control and all of that, but I feel like a lot of it is inadvertent fucking propaganda, advertising.
Yeah,
They are influencing
marketing.
things to make you buy things that cause other real things to happen, and they just,
Exactly.
oh well.
I mean, you can absolutely influence people's behaviors and stuff like that, because that's what marketing is. That's what advertising is. That's, all of that shit has been designed through years of studying and stuff. But to say that people are being mind controlled by lizards, it's fucking crazy. And he is super dangerous. I mean, if it had just been the lizards, like, oh my god, this guy thinks he's the son of God, and he stopped talking about that now. Like, he doesn't really want to talk about, I said it with Jesus for a while. Let's forget that happened. Let's talk about the lizards. Now it's like he knows what he's doing. He's jumping from whatever trending conspiracy is popular at that time, and he's like, oh yeah, 5G towers, yeah, totally controlling. Also, let me tell you about lizards. So it's like it's all a way to sell books for this guy and make money. And he's sold a lot of books. This guy speaks in conventions in front of thousands of people.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm jealous. I wish I could be so fucking delusional that I could finish a book and sell it and not care that people are gonna think that I'm nuts.
Yeah, and get the most horrific reviews possible, because like his books are terrible. I wish I could just Google. I mean, you might get on a list, but Google David Icke's books, because the front covers are fucking awful. It's the most amateurish looking shit you've ever seen in your life, and yet thousands of people buy them regularly. And that's literally the only reason he's doing this at this point, is to make a living and keep him in shell suits.
I'm gonna have to figure out how it works, and I'll do it less dangerously. I'm
Exactly.
gonna do it. Damn it!
Do it more with a wink instead of I'm 100% serious. So yeah, there we go. David Icke, a solid 82 on the idiot scale, and Wild William, what was his last name?
Longley,
solid 88. Yeah, it was 88. I went with.
You think that?
And
it seems right.
Yeah. I went with higher initially, but the incompetence of people around him and the infrastructure brought that down a little bit. So there are idiots for this week. I had a lot of fun researching David Icke, purely because, I mean, it's so crazy. It starts off really mundane and like normal, and there's trauma here, a little bit of sadness here, really interesting career, and then boom, insanity, lizards, royal family shape shifting. Oh, and there's another thing as well. He talks about the Illuminati. Apparently, Chris Christopherson is a high-ranking member of the Illuminati.
Is he really?
Why the fuck has he gone after Chris Christopherson? Did he not perform or something? So random.
I don't know. I used to have a lot of respect for the Illuminati. I did, and then they tried to contact me and recruit me on Instagram. And they couldn't even deliver a friggin' pizza to prove that they were who they said they were. So they're not as powerful as they say. They can't even get order or takeouts.
I had that exact same message from someone, and I claimed that I was already in the Illuminati and that they were the fake ones, and that actually I was Chris Christopherson. And I sent pictures of Chris Christopherson to prove that I was Chris Christopherson, and then he sent me a picture of him wearing an Illuminati t-shirt, and I was like, where did you get that t-shirt? We need that back, please. How dare you steal our merchandise?
Man, he's got IP. He's got stolen IP.
He's got stolen IP. We will sue you, but we only want the extra larges back. We don't need the medium. So if that's a medium, you can hang on to it. So yeah. That's our show for this week. I had a lot of fun doing this. How did you find researching Wild William?
It was really interesting, and one of the sources that I went to was super favorable for him, and a little cringy, uncomfortable with their use of how he was gunning down black people. So
Okay.
I wasn't sure how much I should believe there. That's why there's a little bit of a recounting of here's some of the truth and some of the bullshit at the end.
Yeah. Was it
So,
Stormfront by any chance? Was it like, let's tell you about this guy. Shot loads of African American people. Wow, what a hero.
yeah.
That's terrible. Yeah. That's uncomfortable when you find stuff like that. I come across that, not necessarily that specific thing, but Twitter seems to have become a thing where, yeah. Like
Unfortunately, it
that
was
sort of
really well written too.
yeah.
Like,
You
it
usually
was like,
find that,
dude, your language
yeah,
is great. Your language use is awesome, and the
yeah. Why are
rest
you
of you
racist?
sucks.
Why do you have to be racist and therefore, unsavable at this point? Basically, that's our show for this week. Thank you to Toastazoid and our friend from Sweden, who Verbrilli, who I think used to join me on my stream. So thank you for coming back, and Volodin, who stuck around for a bit as well. Also, I want to point out our socials as well. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please go to @GreatestIdiots. If you want to follow us on Instagram, go to History's Greatest Idiots. And if you want to sling us some money, go to patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots and join Jesse, our first and favoritist Patreon, in donating us some money, and you'll get behind the scenes stuff, and we'll do some hangouts at some point, and we will also send you scripts, and you'll get a free piece of merchandise depending on the tier you go for. And yeah, just thank you guys so much. If you want to watch our stuff live, you can watch us on YouTube. So if you go to History's Greatest Idiots on YouTube, we do these live shows every now and then. It's also available on Twitch and on our Twitter channel. So if you follow us on there, you'll get our live videos. But also, you can view all of our previous videos on YouTube now. If you just go and search History's Greatest Idiots, there are now 63 episodes on there, and that's over 100 hours of content. Also, I want to point out we have 101 subscribers on YouTube now. Hooray!
Holy moly.
I know.
Some of those videos I'm going to have to figure out how to get back up because they're not playing because I accidentally took them down off StreamYard.
Oh,
trying
okay.
to open up space instead
That's
of paying
fine.
for more space.
That's okay. We'll sort it out. We'll sort it out. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Had a lot of fun doing this, and yeah, thank you. And this will be out, I think, probably in terms of podcasting on the various platforms. That'll be probably next week. Now it'll be you're hearing it at the time. That's fine. So it'll be next weekend. But until
if you're
then,
hearing this, it's out.
If you're hearing this, it's out. If you're not, it's not. So, Derek, would you like to say goodbye, please?
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, and we will see you all again in a couple of weeks or whenever we see you, really. Take care now. Bye.